Nigeria is in dire need of socio-economic transformation to improve the well-being of citizens. But for the country to attain sustainable development, experts feel development must be streamlined to the grassroots, with the subnationals playing a vital role in driving it. But how are they contributing towards this direction? On the spot this week, we'll take a look at the effort in one of the crucial states in the country. I am Joseph Otsen. Welcome to the program. Now, my guest is a legal scholar, an expert on genocide, urban crime management specialist, and public communication strategist. On the spot today is the technical advisor on communication and strategy to the governor of Bayelsa State, High Chief Evarada Dan Abednedo. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm interested here. You, a special advisor to the governor of Bayelsa State. That is a state that, during the military regime, I'm sure that is still on the minds of many Nigerians. Peace is very crucial in that area, not just for the development of that area, but for Nigeria at large. How do you see this role? How challenging is this role to you now, being the fact that you are now a special advisor to the governor?
Well, I think for perhaps the right reasons, some folks will say for the wrong reasons, Nigeria over the years was merchandising some concepts that weren't very good to the Jaw people and perhaps to Bayelsa states. And so occasionally, unlikely to become a routine thing that nations all over the world were hearing stories about Nigeria, stories of agitation, militancy, kidnapping, etc., in Bayelsa states. It wasn't necessary, but it affected virtually every front of the country, state after state after state, reason being that almost every state in this country largely depends on oil revenue. And Bayelsa state largely has a deposition of that natural resource called crudes, which of course is a major driver of Nigeria's economy. And so in those many years, nobody enjoyed it. Yes, it's true, some folks would justify it as a Jaws, who were struggling for resource control and national identity. But did we benefit anything from that? Largely no, on the negative. And so it came to a point when our people realized that it's important and indeed crucial for all of us as a people to hand us together and to say, let us sing a common voice, the voice of collaboration and partnership with agencies of government, security agencies, critical stakeholders, the power brokers in this country. Let us sit back and involve everyone. Let's see how we can chart a course. And that is why today, the story has largely changed. We are no longer talking about agitations of militancy, though we know as a people that there are still very high concerns that we are not getting what should be due us as a country. But is that enough to spill blood? Is that enough to cause chaos? Is that enough to destroy critical federal government assets in our environs? No. The thing is, when we engage, when we collaborate, when we make compromises here and there, it is possible. Nigeria can be safer. And remember, Bayelsa State isn't just a state in this country. Bayelsa is the homeland of all the Jaws. Bayelsa State is like a mother state within the Niger Delta. Anything that goes wrong in Bayelsa State virtually gets wrong in the entire Niger Delta, and it affects the prospect of economy in this country. Where do we stand today? Where we are standing today is a situation where there is a new leadership, not what people think politics should be all about. A governor, Doyediri, who comes to say, can we think together as a people? And he engaged people in the course of his electioneering campaign, bearing in mind his background, the son of a religious leader, a teacher, a co-administrator within the struggles of the Jaw Nation, talking about the Jaw National Congress. So he understands the challenges of development. So when he decided to become a governor, he went community after community, discussing with the people, and the message was in a singular form: security. The people wanted peace. The people wanted real peace.
What is the internal mechanism now that is building that peace within?
Yeah, the internal mechanism of building peace is largely strategic and is people-oriented. It is true that Nigeria today, virtually every state, and of course most critical stakeholders are talking about the essence of community policing. Bayelsa State has a model that largely demonstrates how effective community policing can be in this country. There in Bayelsa State, we have a concept that's largely christened safer together. Safer together is a concept where critical stakeholders within the security architecture of this country sit in round tables routinely with the locals, a process driven by the government, ensuring that everything that it takes for them to dispense services as when they are provided for. We must understand that in this country, largely the military organizations or the security agencies oftentimes complain about, little lapses here and there in terms of logistical supports. And we all know as Nigerians that those lapses do exist. So what do we do as a government in Bayelsa State? The governor only wants to know what are those challenges that will pose threat to easy dispensation of security services to the people. And so we continue to provide that strategically. We don't need to mention all the things that we need to do, but the word logistical support carries all of that. And number two, every traditional ruler, opinion leader, youth leaders, women leaders, religious organizations, and of course, the multinational companies, all of us sit together and we'll work on a platform, a framework that can usher in that peace and tranquility. And that's why in Bayelsa State, crime fighting isn't about a police officer carrying a gun or members of the Joint Military Task Force or the naval officers there in our creeks and seas going to harass people with kinetic arrangements. What happens in Bayelsa State is about collaboration, about information sourcing, about the people showing ownership and responsibility. Everyone in Bayelsa State believes that his or her life matters. And so there is primacy that is placed on matters of lives, individual lives, community life, rural life, and of course, importantly, critical assets of government. So properties must be protected. This is the desire of our people. The reason being that we know that if we don't get it right in security, then nothing is going to work. It is true, after all, that security determines the existence of the substructures of society, and that is why as a government, and we say it again and again, when the Ejiri came to become a governor, you went around the nooks and crannies of the state, and the message was that of having an understanding with the people. What do we do? Security, security, and security.
Okay, of course, they say security. Without security, there won't be any meaningful development. That's there. Now, again, for you to have stability, there should be some degree of other development, so that the people, at least when they have access to proper well-being, then no one will be thinking of insecurity. When people have things they are engaging, businesses to do, they don't even bother. Who will be wondering, thinking of causing crisis anywhere or whatever? So talk to us about, is the governor thinking towards other directions where empowerment in terms of building the economy, building infrastructure for development?
Yeah, it is true after all that over the years, Bayelsa has been a state that largely depends on government survival. It's largely a civil service state or civil servant state, and that isn't a good one for any state, and it must not be. For us as a state, having got it right in security, believing that all folks in this country, even those who think otherwise, everyone believes that Bayelsa State is the safest state in Nigeria today, so it's a bragging right. Therefore, other things must follow. And that is why strategically we've been able to look at critical areas of infrastructural development. For example, connecting all parts of the state by roads, taking the world to Bayelsa State. We can't be a state that produces virtually everything for the survival of the nation, and yet we are living as if we're forgotten people. Government after government, from the beginning of the Republic to today, there's nothing to show that Bayelsa State except the name that we are a state, and by the end of the month, some stipends are given to our state for us to also breathe. The other things that defines the existence of a state are largely not there, for example, roads. And so it beckons on the government of the state to connect Bayelsa State by road. Remember, Bayelsa is so riverine. more riverine than River State and more delta states. We have the seas, the streams, the rivers, the rivulets. Everywhere you go in Bayelsa State is water. And so the cost of building a kilometer of road in Bayelsa State can take about 20, 30 kilometers here in Abuja. We are not surprised, therefore, that when we come here, we see so many mileages of road, and people say, wow, government is working here. But when you get to Bayelsa State, you also beat your chest and say, this one is working, because the people of Southern Jaw, which is a local government, indeed, the largest local government by our own assessment in this country, the largest and most populated and highly endowed with natural resources. They never had a road before, but today, as we speak, the roads are going, the bridges are being built. The Kremo Sagwama from that axis, they are driving easy to Kremo local government headquarters. You know, Bayelsa State has just 8 local governments. And when you go to the brass axis, as we speak now, we are not just talking on TV. The swamp buggies are working, the dredgers are dredging, embankments of the road. We've been able to hit 21 kilometers of the road down the Atlantic. You can imagine a state government driving the road to the depth of the Atlantic, trying to reach brass, a forgotten people, so largely endowed with natural resource, a place with a rich history. If you remember the Akasa raid, that's the place. The world is talking about tourism. Why not expose those people to the world? Why are we building the roads? We are talking about diversifying the economy of the state. The only way we can diversify the economy of the state is to ensure that we open up the roads, the streets, the communities, and the hidden. And then we also have energy supply. In Bayelsa State, it is true, after all, that not long ago we stayed for almost 5 months without any power supply. It's unheard of in this country, but that's where we come from. And that's the challenge. The state government had decided to make a decisive decision. Now, of course, that's worked. We have gone to pay for 2 turbines, and the governor has told all critical stakeholders turbines are going to be arriving, I think, by the end of this month. And by the end of this year, we're going to have uninterrupted power supply. Remember, Bayelsa State has a higher deposition of gas in this country. We want to convert that gas to electrical energy with modern turbines that are going to be stored as we're working. The place is being prepared, and the experts are going to be coming in to do the fixing. All of that is systematic and strategic.
Okay, let me just interrupt you here a little bit. You can still continue with that. You know, putting all this development that you're talking about, one of the things that people believe, experts believe, that have been a major challenge in terms of development in the past is the fact of need assessment. Development is peculiar to different places, different areas. There are some areas, one of the issues, infrastructures you are talking about, it may not be exactly what the people need, but they may want something else. How much is the governor engaging the communities to understand that this is the priorities of these areas?
I think the whole essence of good governance from a global perspective is about transparency, inclusivity, and frugality in the management of resources, and of course, predictability. In Bayelsa State, there isn't a single policy or project implemented by this administration, the prosperity government of Governor Daideri, that is not a product of the people's desire. I just said a moment ago that before the emergence of Daideri as a governor, he went around communities and neighborhoods and had town hall meetings. And they placed their demands on the pyramid of needs. And just like you're asking, everything we're doing is on the basis of a superior position of demands, making it a need. There's a difference between the demands and the needs. Bayelsans wanted security. We've got security and we're sustaining it. That's it. That's the position that is not compromisable. Number 2, Bayelsans told the governor, when you will get security, let us have the roads. The Keremo axis, that is Bayelsa West, Bayelsa Central, Bayelsa East. Every senatorial district said one thing together: security, roads. And we are saying we are building the roads. No government in this country, federal government and states, can dare what we are doing in Bayelsa State, because we've been able to demonstrate that on common political way to say the terrain can deter us from growth. And so in terms of pyramid of need, road construction, building the bridges, opening up, and remember, human resource development, capacity building. Now, if you want to take our children awards away from militancy and other critical-terrorist activities, one thing is very important. You define what their future will be by giving them education, by giving them vocational training, so that they will become employers of labor, young entrepreneurs, people who can create wealth, so that our children and wards can leave Bayelsa State, leave the contours of Ijaw land, come to Abuja, sit with folks from the east, the west, and the north, and discuss as equals. Who have learned, who have studied, they can go to UK, the United States, and compete with their folks and peers, and they come up tops. And that's why we continue to invest in education. In Bayelsa State, we don't only build the schools, because we have been building and building hundreds of schools. Anything we say should be done with a fast check, because when you fact and you check it, you understand that this is a government that is truly transparent. The government has been building capacity in our kids of wards, empowering them not just in the schools, training them, giving them skills, taking them to faraway lands, coming home, giving them starter packs, engaging with critical stakeholders and civil society organizations, experts in different fields, to ensure that there is monitoring and evaluation. They train and retrain, and they advise as it may be necessary, and they provide credit, soft loans that they can pay in a longer time, not immediately. These are prospects of good governance, and that is why, as a people, we always look and say, wait a minute, so these are things that are possible? Why has it taken us so long before we arrive at this point?
We'll take a little break now. We'll take a little break. You'll continue. Of course, they are possible. They are possible. And if they're happening in Bayelsa State, then it's possible anywhere.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, stay with us. Let's take a little break. We'll be back shortly to continue. Thank you for being there. This is On the Spot. Now, we were talking about, you were laying emphasis on human development.
Yeah, human capacity building.
Yeah. But I want to take you to one aspect, one area where you may find very uncomfortable, but it's quite crucial to discuss. When we talk about inclusivity, every tribe, persons with disabilities, and so on. A lot of people have argued that when you talk about Bayelsa State, so much is talk about the Ijaws, as if there are others that are not existing there. Talk to us about inclusivity, how the governor is carrying everybody along in that area, because that's equally crucial for peace.
I think in Bayelsa State, and I can say it for the right reasons, no one feels alienated. There is no exclusion. I don't speak Ijaw language. I speak Ogbia as one of the smaller nations in Ijaw, because we are all Ijaw people. I speak Ijaw. I don't speak Ijaw, I speak Ogbia language. I'm an Ogbia man, but first I'm an Ijaw man too. Every Bayelsan is an Ijaw. Bayelsa State is a homogeneous state for all Ijaws. And that is why people from Arogbo can go to Bayelsa State and claim ownership of our state. I will love it. Our brothers and sisters in Edo State, in Akwa Ibom State, in Delta, in River State, and indeed, Ijaws are scattered all over the world. Wherever there is a river, you find Ijaw people. Indeed, Bayelsa State is the Ijaw nation, is the Jerusalem of the Ijaw people. So whether you're in Ukraine, you're in Russia, you're in Azerbaijan, in Mania, wherever you are, when you get to Bayelsa State, you're a Bayelsan. Why? Because you're an Ijaw man. And that is why we're saying, there is no voice of dissent anywhere in Bayelsa that says that, oh, some communities or some people are discriminated upon. We are all Ijaw people. We don't have a language like, nobody says it. Well, that this is an Ogbia man, this is an Ipie man. This, of course, we do have, languages, smaller languages, the Ogbia language, Ipie language, Nembe language. We also have Kolokuma language. We also have the Tamil language. All of these are conglomerates of languages and smaller ethnic groups in this bigger nation called Ijaw. We are Ijaw people, and so it does not exist at all. No matter of discrimination. I just said inclusivity is one of the bragging rights of the prosperity government in Bayelsa, and that is why you can see the support, the kind of organic solidarity that the governor gets. It's like a cult movement. Every person in Bayelsa State and that identifies with the governor. In Bayelsa State, sometimes you wonder whether there are other political parties that are existing. The reason being that
Sure they are not suppressed?
No, let me say this so that you get it very clear for the viewers. It is so clear to understand that perhaps this is the only state where you see the governor is a PDP governor. Commissioners, not one, not two, special advisors, senior special assistant, technical advisors, they are of the APC. So many of the Labour Party. So what are we saying? That is inclusivity. And remember, the media is everywhere. That is the state where you don't see anyone being molested for making a statement of dissent against the government. For those of us who are, information managers in government, because that's the directive of the governor, we tell the people of the state, where you say things working, appreciate, and ask government to do more. Where it's not working, speak out, so that I bring government closer, so that we'll look at it and evolve a model that is going to address all of that. You see, inclusivity first, number one. Number two, tolerance. The governor ensures that there is a high level of political tolerance. And that is why there isn't a dot of crisis in Bayelsa State for a very long time. The reason being that it's one family. People don't talk about political divides, different political leanings. No, we're a job people, we're Bayelsans. There are basic things we need. We need to survive, we need prosperity. Prosperity and good health. How do we improve the health service delivery system in Bayelsa State? How can we reprofile education in Bayelsa State that will meet universal standards, so that when we talk about, modern literacy mechanisms, so that when you graduate from a university or you're through with college, you can have employment somewhere. And that's why we're thinking day and night, and Bayelsans are saying, is there any way the Nigerian constitution can be tinkered so that a governor that does so well can have tenure elongation? I will laugh over it. The reason is because we're not saying no, it's not going to waste. Just to tell you the feeling the people have that, oh, we just wish this will last forever. Because what do you want as a people from government? You want peace, and the peace is here. We want education, and in Bayelsa State, for those who deal with data in this country, they should check. School dropouts in Bayelsa State is like not a story to hear any day, because everyone has access to education. Everyone in primary school, primary and secondary school is free in Bayelsa State. Every government school is free. And the thing is, we continue to employ and build capacity.
I always have issue when people talk about this free education and
Yes.
so on. Because when they talk about free education, but in the actual sense, when you go there, you see that there are some certain levies. They don't say school fees, but there are some certain levies that students pay, parents pay.
It's largely free.
Sometimes it's even more than what.
It's largely free in Bayelsa. The reason being that admission is free, uniform is free, books, both exercise books and textbooks are free, and the government provides the logistics. Primary and secondary school. So even WAEC, junior WAEC, is free for our children awards. So when we say things that this is the dream of the Jaw people, our founding fathers desired an environment where our children can have access to quality education. That's what we're getting. And remember, we are not just looking at basic education. We're looking at science and technology. And that's why we're talking about technical education. Bayelsa State has been able to liaise with multinational companies, including Microsoft. And so our primary education system is top-notch in this country because the models we are using are directly from Microsoft. And so we work hand in hand. What is taught in Community A is what Community Z and Q are doing at the same time. And you can stay as an education manager in Bayelsa State in the comfort of your office to see exactly what every teacher is teaching at a particular time. So you can monitor and evaluate. When we talk about, investing in the education, it's not just building school, because we keep building school, we keep furnishing the school, equipping the schools, but we also believe that those who are imparting knowledge to the children awards must also be persons who are above bar. And that is why we continue to train and retrain our teachers. Every time they go for training, they come back. And we don't stop there. We ensure that teachers have a pride of place in society. For me, my dad was a palm quarter, and largely in those days, he lived better than teachers. Today in Bayelsa State, teachers live like real human beings because their take home is beautiful. Remember, Bayelsa State is not joking with civil servants. Their welfare is top notch. And so, in Bayelsa State, we are asking, when last did we see a classroom under lock and key? Because the teachers want to go to school. The kids are telling their parents, Daddy, when is the school, the holiday going to be over? Because the environment is alluring. The teachers are friendly. Teachers dress good, smile good, eat good. And of course, remember, when you fall sick as a teacher, or your wife, or your husband, or your kids fall sick, you don't need to spend a penny. Just go to the Bayelsa State Health Insurance Scheme. And you know what? You are going to be given free medical treatment with the part that is taken from your salary, because we have a robust health system in Bayelsa State that is really people-oriented.
Sorry, the technical advisor on communication and strategy to the governor of Bayelsa State, High Chief Evarada Dan Abednedo. Thank you again for being on the
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much. I appreciate.
All right, thank you too for always being there. See you again on the next episode on the spot.